Welcome everyone to the Unfiltered Talk podcast. I don't know what episode this is. Honestly, I don't even care. Okay, we're here. We're living in the moment. We got my boy Jaren Hall again for a second episode. Jaren, say what's up to everyone.
Round 2. What's up?
I guess there were some things on your mind. You're just like, I got Alema, please, let me get on, bro.
You know me. I love doing it.
Really quick, let's get an update on what you're doing nowadays. I know you were originally with the Vikings. You went to the Seattle Seahawks, got released there. What are you doing now?
Now it's free agency. So it was released right after week 2 OTAs after the draft, and then had some workouts since. I've just been training, waiting for a call. So enjoying family time. What
is a free agency lifestyle like? Like what does that all entail?
Just honestly, it's whatever you want it to be. For me, it's still the normal off-season schedule. Training every day, throwing, watching film on the iPad, just trying to keep the mind kind of sharp for when I get a call. But a little bit of golf here and there, a lot of family time with the kids, with the wifey. It's been really nice. This is the first extended chunk of time that me and Bree have had together since our marriage, because we got married bowl season, went into my first year of baseball, and then 2 years starting in football right into the draft prep was crazy, and then rookie year of the NFL. Last year, after getting cut, moving to Seattle, and now we've had 6 straight months of just time together. It's honestly as stressful as it's been, just with the work aspect. It's been really nice.
I'm not gonna lie, my first season without football, slept like a baby.
Like a baby. No stress at night, chilling, little clash before bedtime, and we're down.
One thing I wanted to bring up, because I know the anxiety that you feel with early morning workouts. Mm-hmm. You got a full week of practice, right? Kind of walk through the mental state of a professional player who's got to deal with it as a job.
Yeah, well, I mean, the paychecks make it a little less stressful. Okay. That part's really nice. But the expectations now are that it's 24/7. You don't have as much space, not as much room for error. So that's where I think the anxiety comes from, especially as a lower round pick or a guy that's not drafted. I think fourth rounders on. Typically, I was fifth rounder. You just feel that stress of I got to prove myself every day. I got to make sure I'm, on top of everything. But it's stressful just to that regard, because you can be cut at any point. There's no guaranteed money aside from your signing bonus when you're drafted. So you got to earn everything every day. But after you do it for quite some time, you build that regiment into your schedule. You get used to that stress. It just kind of becomes your way of life. And you learn to deal with, the stresses. And I think being cut the first time kind of got all that stress and anxiety out of kind of my mind and whatnot, because you just go through it the first time. You realize, okay, I can bounce back. I went to Seattle, got 5 or 6, game checks and was active, got another season. It's you start to deal with it. You realize there's ways, around the downs you can get back up. And it's all about having, good fortune, but also staying prepared, falling back on your hard work.
So how does the stress and maybe, I guess just the stress of being on a college team, trying to prove yourself, compared to the stress of being on a professional football team, trying to prove yourself?
I feel like it's just as stressful, because when we're in college trying to compete, that's all we know. That's the highest of competition we've ever been in. And then you get to the NFL, now it's a new height, right? But that's all your mind. That's the max of what your mind has ever felt. And so I feel like the stress is the same. It's just because that's what you know at that point. Obviously, as I compare the NFL to college, to high school, as you go down, it's not as big a deal or not a big impact, The NFL's got a much bigger impact than college and high school, now, because it's the way you live. It's how you take care of your family, your mortgage, everything for me, So, but now it starts to push what am I after football? Who am I outside of a football player? What relationships do I have? What people do I enjoy being around, for work in the future? And so it's good. I think the different stresses drive different focuses in your life, help you figure out different things.
Yeah, I can relate to the stress, because when I try to get picked up for 5-on-5 at the rec center, it's like,
there you go.
Oh, dang, are they gonna pick me? Are they gonna pick me? Am I gonna have the ball? You know what I mean? I get it. So I feel it every day. You
just gotta learn your role quick, man. For you, it's the box out guy. Okay, there's not a lot of stress in that. Get down in the paint, get on somebody, sit on, get them out the paint and rebound the damn ball.
I refuse, bro. You know why I refuse?
You're one of those guys.
Because the 6'4" guys in the league, those are the point guards. Those are the ball handlers. So that's me. You know what I mean? So I have to embrace that role full-heartedly.
You ever seen Russell Westbrook?
That's what I'm saying. 6'4".
But the way he moves.
That's how I move.
I've seen you on the football field, okay?
It's all relative, though. So, like, because the ones we played against now are dads. They have not seen competitive sports.
The gym bros, they walk in there like this.
Walk in like
barely
that,
shoot
bro.
the ball.
That's what I'm saying. They got the knees of, like, styrofoam. You know what I mean?
And you don't?
So, all right, that's a sensitive subject. That's a sensitive subject. BYU, thank you very much for the 80-year-old knees that you gave me.
I don't endorse that. I'm moving on.
I feel so. Let's talk really quick. So your experience in the NFL, right? We talked a little bit last episode about your experience with the Minnesota Vikings, and then having to transition to Seattle Seahawks. Mm-hmm. Going from two different organizations, how is it handled differently? Like, what was your experience?
Like business standpoint, everything's always the same. X's and O's are just different. Going from Minnesota's playbook to Seattle's, it was a new OC who's come from college. Now he's actually back in college at Alabama. Just totally different play styles. So that whole season, I was just trying to get comfortable with the new offense. While being on practice squad, I understood that there wasn't as much urgency to be ready to play, right? So I could kind of be calm about it. I didn't stress as much until then I got elevated and activated for the last couple of weeks. And then it's like, okay, now I really got to test myself, make sure I know this stuff. So X's and O's were way different, total different scheme. And then you just get used to like team dynamics. Like Minnesota was an older team, more vets, more more wives, more kids. Really felt like BYU-ish in that sense. A lot of guys you can relate to in terms of where you're at in life. And then Seattle was way less. Not as many dudes married. Maybe one or two kids that I can remember of guys that I really got to know. So then just the teammate dynamics, where everyone's at in life, how you bond, what things you're, similar in and different in is, was different Seattle than Minnesota. So you kind of get all tiers of business, football, off the field lifestyle. That's just stuff you get used to and, find a couple of dudes you can relate to early on and then, build friendships from there.
So already, you stand out because you're coming from a school that's not very, I don't want to say well known because it is, at least in
for what reasons
the West Coast. Yeah, exactly.
Why is it known? And that'll drive how much they actually care to learn about it.
So what was the reaction that you got being a quarterback from BYU? Well-known school, obviously, but well-known for different reasons, like you mentioned. Yeah. Was there a difference between like going to Minnesota, where you're at a different stage in your life? You go to Seattle, a little more liberal, and then they see this LDS kid, right?
Yeah, I'm sure like fan bases probably very similar. Two big cities, I'm not going to get into that. But then football-wise, it was kind of similar. Guys knew what BYU was. The guys I got to know, we'd have questions here and there. They'd have questions for me about it. But it was never anything, from a ill will standpoint, never had anything bad to say. Everything was just kept as football, which I was very surprised. And maybe it's because as quarterbacks, I feel like in Minnesota, we spent so much time together in our room, hours after practice watching film, very just focused. We didn't there wasn't a ton of time to be with the dudes in the season. OTAs was more of that and I had more conversations, but maybe it's because we're so focused on doing that, there's really not as much time to talk about some of those other things with other players and whatnot. Yeah. And Seattle, the same thing. Kirk was a pro, Nick Mullins was a pro, and then Gino was a pro in Seattle, Sam Howell, like very similar situations in terms of where we spend our time as QBs during the season. So not as many opportunities to talk about that stuff as I would have thought going to the NFL. I feel like from some of the older players or past guys, they always got these, like we talked about last time, I think Xavier or someone else has some crazy stories about some teammates, and it's like I've never had those experiences, but maybe it's being a quarterback. We're just spending so much more time doing our stuff, after hours and whatnot, but it's chill.
May also be like a position culture as well. I feel like and no shade to defensive backs, right? No shade to defensive backs, but man, those dudes, hey, no, hell no, you know what I mean? Like just arguing, you know what I mean?
Looking for opportunities to argue.
Looking for opportunities. So maybe it is a bit of a, because as the leader, as a quarterback, it's a different culture position-wise. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. That would make sense. You're going to talk about a lot. There's going to be less, you already don't have a ton of time. You're just going to talk about stuff that's not football related. You're probably not going to talk about stuff that would, bring up arguments and whatnot. It's just going to be chill, day-to-day normal stuff. Whereas other rooms are personalities that like to be more argumentative. You know, you bring in one LDS kid into a big group of DBs or, you know, receivers or another group, like they're going to talk a lot more about stuff. And
What's up with the magic underwear, dog?
Exactly. It's the typical magic. You know, I think Brent Covey's talked about that once or twice. Like he's had some, like he's talked about, you know, guys that have made comments and, you know, just funny stuff, you know. So maybe it's just just position rooms.
Position room culture.
Yeah, could be.
That makes sense. And I feel like the NFL, as a professional, it's like, man, I'm just here to make my money, and I ain't trying to.
That's the other thing. You got different pockets of players, what their intentions are, why they're there, what their focus is, and that could drive that too.
Yeah. Last time we talked, we kind of dove into a bit of your like identity as a person, right? So mixed race. Obviously, you have a white mom, black dad. That mix of cultures, kind of, you represent that. I know that, you know, in hopping this episode, you know, been able to collect our thoughts more, better express like what that means to you. But just overall, like being a mixed kid growing up in Utah, explain more about your experience and some of the things that you're grateful for with having that multicultural experience.
I think now, like 27, thought about like, especially the last couple of years, since being the first black quarterback to start, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement, you know, the church focusing more on rooting out racism for all of us as members. Like, there's been so much focus on race for the last 7 years since COVID, really. I've, like, started to reflect on, like, my life. Okay, what was it like being a biracial kid in Utah? Well, you know, you grew up in Utah. There's not a lot of black people. So my his you know, experiences, what he went through is kind of what I learned on that side of the family. Other than that, I think most people outside of Utah see me as white, right? And I can agree with that. I grew up here, you know, not trenched in other cultures, you know, around the country. Just Utah is what I got. So I've realized that for me, like, I have my life experiences. I've been very blessed, had great friend groups, never really had any issues with race or anything here in Utah. My brothers, theirs are all different stories. Other friends of mine, you know, kids grew up here, were adopted. They have different stories as well. So everyone has a different experience in Utah. Mine's been awesome. I've been very blessed. I'm thankful for that. But now growing up, as I talk to other people about what that's like, you know, being biracial, I now realize the conversations I have with people about what it means, you know, to be who I am, often depends on how they see me going into that conversation. So, like, dudes in the league, I think they see me like, you know, you're a kid from Utah, you know, you talk like, you know, I talk like I'm from Utah. Obviously, I don't speak a certain way. I'm sure they see me as more white, right? So you go into those conversations understanding that. But for me, like, I just try to learn, try to, like, understand people's experiences, try not to don't be fake. You know, I think that's something my dad taught us, and he got us ready for that. You know, you get more into sports, you're going to get more into other cultures, more black kids, you know, more Polynesian kids. You're going to start to mix in your cultures a little more. And so I think he prepared us for that. Just be yourself. And so a kid from Utah, biracial, some people are like, oh, you have a chance to be right in the middle and do both. But depending who I'm with, some people see me as white. Some people in Utah might say, oh, you're more black just because you're darker than all of us. You know, I've never really cared for people's opinions. I just know who I am, you know, who my dad taught us to be, and my mom. But I've had a really good experience, you know, from both sides of my family, hearing stories of my dad. And I'm grateful to kind of be in my position I'm in and have a chance to, you know, for some people to bridge a gap, they'd say. But for me, mostly the last couple of years, it's just been learning about what I believe about all this stuff, the race issues in the country and the world. How do I fit into that? How do I, you know, help be a change? Because we all have a role. It's been enlightening because you just see so much political, just people in politics and the news taking advantage of that for their own personal reasons that are very selfish. It's like, okay, how do I take this real life issue and relate it to myself, try to be a real human being with a heart, and try to make a change without being a social hero or a you know, social media hero or whatever these people like to do. You know, it's like, how do you just be real about it? And so I had to learn that through my first start. All the media came around it. Okay, I'm a half black kid, half white. How do I manage it? So those are a lot of the thoughts I've had lately about it. But that's just been my experience. It's just I'm still trying to learn how do I be better at that? How do I manage that better and just be a light for change?
Yeah, and I agree. I think as a mixed kid, like, there's a lot to be grateful for because you get this melting pot of experiences, cultural expectations. You get to see the stark contrast between people who didn't grow up with you know, being mixed race or mixed cultures, right? What are some things that you would say you're particularly grateful for, maybe with just being able to have both sides, you know, whether it's, you know, I mean, Uncle Kalen's already a fun guy to be around. I can only imagine. But like, was there anything particularly that you could think of that maybe you're like, man, I'm really grateful I had that experience that helped prepare me to enter into the world?
Man, I've never had one defining experience, honestly. I think just having like just a blessed childhood with my mom and dad in the house taking care of us. My dad shared his story. A lot of the stuff with the race obviously comes with my dad. He's black. He grew up in a single mom household with my grandma. You know, his dad was a Rolling Stone. Just, you know, he has a lot of half brothers and sisters. He was, you know, Grandpa Stradwick was doing his thing. And so I learned from my dad's experiences, and that's a hard life to go through. And a lot of kids go through it still today, right, in different countries around, or different states around the country. And so I'm lucky on the hard end of experiences for culture to learn from my dad's. And then be blessed enough to be raised in a place where I'm loved by my brothers and sisters, my friends, to see the good of both cultures, right? Because then being, you know, as we got into college, we were put into an extremely racially charged atmosphere and so in, you know, society and
2020, man.
It's crazy, dude. Like, so if I didn't have like a foundation of understanding both are great, you know, white and black was the topic, right? Both are great. All races are great, whatever. I might have been more confused about like how do you handle this stuff? But between, you know, mom and dad being biracial, and then obviously the gospel is a huge help in teachings of the Savior. I knew, okay, there's middle ground to be found here. We just haven't found it. You know, politicians are never going to find it. So where is that at? Like, where does that conversation need to be had? And it's still going on, obviously. But I'd say just the experience of being raised, you know, in a wonderful place, mixed with understanding my dad's, you know, the hard times that he went through, helped me understand more of that side of the culture and the struggle of it. I'm grateful for those kind of multitude of experiences combined. Yeah. That's kind of created my outlook on it.
No, I completely agree. And I think that's a true testament to your dad, Uncle Kalen, just the way that he I think when you take those experiences with you and you apply them in a way that you can teach your kids how to correctly address these issues, right? Yeah. That's a testament. Because then instead of, you know, Uncle Kalen could have your dad could have very easily taught you, hey, the world's against you.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's not a mentality that he adopted.
No.
And here we are.
Exactly.
Played in the NFL for a little bit, you know, played, you know, have done a number of things to be proud of. Graduated, right?
Come on, dog.
We'll cut that out.
Was that not an agreement? We went to American Heritage, bro. Can you believe that?
That's the last class?
That's the only class I left BYU having not finished.
No.
We were just planning. We were just one class off. And it's because of baseball, dog. Because all you guys would take like 17 credits in, you know, summer, and I was playing baseball in the spring. So I only ever took 12, and I never did spring and summer classes because I was playing baseball, going into football. It's just too much. So had I not played baseball, I'd have graduated after 3 years. But, you know, it's my soul. It's crazy, huh?
The worst class of all of them, too.
And I started it in May online. But then I started having workouts and OTAs, and I thought I had enough time to get it done. And then when I got accepted into the it's just what is it? The online studies at BYU.
Independent study. Yeah.
I was told we had thought that it was going to be a packet work. That's what we've been told. So I'd have like a year just to finish it whenever I want. Ended up being weekly due dates. You know, so imagine going through the fall with weekly due dates during the season. So
it's like you're back at.
I'm behind.
It's like you're back at Brother Brigham, bro.
That's what I'm saying, bro. So I'm already behind. I got to email my professor. I got to figure this out. Yeah, otherwise, I'll be taking it again eventually. I'd rather not spend another $900 to do that, though. So.
Oh, don't get me started. All right. We love you, Brother Brigham, but gosh, damn.
Got to finish my degree, though. It's dumb, though, because my major's done. I've done all that. It's just a dang freshman course that is keeping me from. I am allowing it to keep me from.
That was a class I barely passed, I think, with a D+.
That's all I need now.
All you need is D+. That's all I need.
So we're getting there.
Kairos Tonga, me and him got past that class with D+. So
in front of the classroom?
You know, we kind of kept to ourselves. Honestly, but like my experience at Brigham Young, like for the most part in class, I kept to myself. Like it wasn't until maybe my last 2 years that I really started to like socialize.
Yeah.
But I was already in my major, and I was like talking with other people about my major.
Your major, yeah.
So yeah, not a whole lot of socializing the first 2 years.
Well,
so.
dude, we're with each other all day long. We're with 125 other dudes, annoying the crap out of each other in the locker room, getting after each other and ping. Like, it's hard to want to do any more socializing. When we're in class, it's like, dude, I just trying to get through this, get to practice. Like,
the battery depletes.
Fellas, it does.
Real fast.
It does. Yeah.
So talking about your dad, I know that there was a lot of drama going on at Maple Mountain. First of all, let me just say this, guys.
You saw that.
Bro, and the only reason why I was like, oh, this is serious was when I seen you tweet.
Dude, I could not hold my tongue. I hate tweeting. You go through I probably hadn't posted for a year and a half before that.
Never.
I was so livid. Bro, me and KJ were on the phone for probably an hour and a half before that happened. Like, Dawson and Kyson just chilling, doing their thing. Young brother, heads in the cloud. Me and KJ just pissed off, furious about this stuff. So after that, we talked and got our thoughts together, and finally, I just couldn't do it anymore. Like, me and Bree were talking about it. Just how shady and I could not believe. Like, when my mom called us to tell us, I couldn't believe that happened.
That he was getting let go.
He was getting let go. They were. We played there. We've always been awful. Like, it's just. We're getting into it now. So continue. What's the next question?
Let me explain the story.
Obviously, my anger is coming out. I can't even speak.
It's visible, brother. Obviously.
The following comments regarding Coach Hall and his departure from the Maple Mountain football team do not represent an official or authoritative stance from the Hall family, the school district, or any involved members. Jaren is simply sharing his perspective and recalling the events to the best of his memory.
Obviously, the story that was told wasn't the full story.
What story are you referencing?
The story was that there was some disagreements between the administration and the way that Uncle Kalen was running things.
As there always is.
And that Uncle Kalen wasn't willing to comply, so they let him go. That was the story being told.
No.
I want to hear the full, dare I say, unfiltered story of what went down, because I think it's an important thing that people need to know, because Uncle Kalen is an important member of Utah County, of society. So explain real quick.
Yeah. And if any of these facts are wrong, somebody go ahead and fact check me. I'm not immune from that. So essentially what I can remember now, because it's been, 3 months since it happened, and my mind is such that when I don't think about something for a long time, stuff will slip my mind. So again,
sure.
Something is wrong in the comments. If anyone cares about this situation that happened 3 months ago, feel free to correct me.
You're not going to get canceled. Don't worry, brother. Leave me straight.
Yeah, come on. So he gets let go. They tell him it's a disagreement of, a couple of those things. I'm not going to get into it, necessarily what the reasons are, but it's all things, either were untrue and false, or they're things that very well could have just been talked about and corrected. Because you ask any high school coach of any sport, there's going to be disagreements with administration. There's a bunch of rules that the AD is supposed to make sure the coach is enforcing.
Of course.
His job is, hey, coach, we should be doing this. Like, let's go ahead and fix it, right? That's the first problem. And I got to watch my tongue because this AD,
he had it out for y'all?
Don't get me started. I'm really going to try not to say, you know me. Yeah. I don't try not to say bad things about people. This guy coached KJ in football at one point. Then he's a women's soccer coach the whole time I'm there. Not even football anymore. Then applies for the head coaching job when our longtime coach is done, and my dad applied for the same year. And he was coming from like a teaching position. I don't even know if he's coaching women's soccer anymore at the high school.
Okay.
Wanted to get the head coaching job. For what reason, I don't know, other than he just wanted to coach football, which, with all due respect, I don't know what he would have coached.
No qualifications.
He never coached us.
Yeah.
His brother did, but he never coached us. I don't know what he knows about football. So my dad obviously has coached for a long time, coached Spanish, Payson, 25 years ago. They were great teams back in the day. He's coached ever since then while he's been working. And so he was very qualified. He's great in the community. The young men respect him. The parents love him because he's a workhorse. He drives that into kids. But it's also like the off-the-field stuff in life. Like, he raised 4 boys, all played collegiate sports.
Right.
I'm in the NFL now. All hard workers, families, kids. Like, we try to do things the right way in the Hall household, right? Like anybody, hold your last name up with pride. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we try to do. So my dad's just built that reputation in the community, where it's not a big sports community. Well, they love sports, but we just don't have a lot of kids that make it deep into Division I or professional sports, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
One of my best friends played collegiate at UVU for a long time, baseball. He's a stud, and there were a couple others, but. And I'm sure I'm missing a bunch, some girl athletes and whatnot. One played soccer. Elise Flake was a stud. Anyways, I'm trying to give everyone their flowers, so I don't leave anybody out. we just have not had a huge surge of athletes like Corner Canyon or Timpview. And that was his goal, was to do that, bringing the best coaches. You know, we talked about Don being there. This is the DC before we started. He had so many good coaches. Coach Bing was OC. John was there. A lot of guys that played in the NFL and college. They had such a good staff, bro. Good guys, good family guys. But they rubbed kids and parents the wrong way when they first got the job, because he got the workouts, and he's like, fellas, this is what we're going to do. If you guys can't commit to this, sorry. Whoever started before, that's all done. We're going to start from the ground up, and we're going to figure this out. But you know how parents are. Entitled, not all of them, but some of them are entitled.
Them, yeah.
My kid should be playing typical high school. You get to anywhere. So you got a lot of kids that quit. They don't want to play anymore because Coach Hall's too hard, right? So that's where, and that's why I'm telling all this, because it all pieced together. So he starts running a hard-nosed program, doing his thing. Kids start to get better. They have one good first year that's better than the year before. They won like 6 games the year before.
I remember that,
I think they almost make the playoffs the first year. They do the second year. They're on track to probably win a state championship this year. They got like 9 kids with D1 offers now. I don't think there's been 9 kids with D1 offers since my brother played, KJ, 15 years ago. Like, it's the most they've ever had in a single season. They're going to be good.
Yeah.
But the coach, who's now the AD, who had applied for the job and didn't get it, my dad got it. For some reason, the next year, he got hired as AD, okay? So now he's already got it out for Kalen. He's never liked my dad. You know Kalen, he's loud. He is confident in what he does. When he's around, bro, he's like, you just feel his energy.
Strong presence, yep.
And this AD, again, I'm just going to say AD because I'm not going to call him out by name. I feel like he was just kind of intimidated when it comes to football stuff, because my dad he knows what he's doing. And some people don't like that when they don't feel like they're up to that standard, right? So where an AD, you know, when there's small disagreements or a coach is doing something a little different, something that can be easily corrected, the AD should just be like, hey, this is what we got to do, or I think we should do it this way. It's not even breaking, my dad's not even breaking rules. It's just like, we could do this better. He keeps those as reasons to fire him. He is looking, for 2 years straight, he is looking for ways to fire him, trying to get him on recruiting, never could. So many other things, never stuck. But Utah's an at-will state, so you can fire whenever you want.
At-will, yep.
Finally, he just threw enough just dirt at the wall, enough stuff that something finally stuck, or the principal was just fed up with it and just figured his AD was right. The principal, they fire my dad for no reason. They give him this BS list of things that could have happened. My dad refuted, like, well, we could have talked about this. We could have talked about this. We already solved this. This isn't even true. And then the parents find out. Everyone blows up. You know, they're protesting at the school. Parents are pissed. Kids are mad. They go back and forth with my dad. They write a letter to somebody that works for the high school athletics association about what's going on. They bring it back in. My dad's in the clear because I don't know all the details. Sorry, everybody. It's more emotion than anything right now. I'm trying to be logical and remember. So at that point, like, Kalen's in the right. The school looks really bad. The principal, the AD look really bad. And then they give him the job back after the parents have been there, just ripping these guys, sitting in lines in the office, waiting to talk to the principal, the AD. He's cowering away from all this stuff. He's not going to do anything because he knows he's in the wrong. He's just silly. Right. Just not responding to anybody, and then finally they offer him the job back. It's like, I thought he broke rules. How are you going to offer somebody a job back that didn't break any rules? Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. You've been standing on this hill. He did this and this. You know, the problem was they did it on their own without doing their investigation. The principal, hopefully this isn't a defamation claim, the process.
No due process.
No due process, right? Gosh. So they fire him. You know, the district doesn't even know what's going on. Then it gets to the district. It comes back. I don't know what their conversation was. They could have said, I
remember he was in the clear. I remember he was in the clear.
They offered him the job.
Okay, nothing stuck, right?
But with the re-offer, they attach a written-up statement that they wrote for him to say that would then essentially have him convict himself of doing the things that they initially said, which weren't true, which is why they re-offered the job. So they were trying to save face because they looked really. The KSL was doing videos. It was all. I had tweeted about it. Got a bunch of people following the situation, signing the petition that the parents put out, and so they have him like, you can be the coach if you just say the statement, and it's a bunch of baloney. Just, I'm going to be a better man for these kids, teach them and take. It's like, dude, he didn't do anything wrong. What are we doing? And so he gets on a Zoom call, and we're going to have to talk to him before we release all this first to make sure all this is clear.
Sure.
Maybe send him this bit to listen to, but I just thought about that in my mind. So he gets on the Zoom, shows that letter to the parents, because his stress as coach was these parents have been fighting for a week out of the school, parents going to talk, the kids have been out for him to get his job back. So once they heard he got the job back, everyone's like, oh, he's our coach again. Everyone's happy. So him and my mom, prayed about it. They felt so sad because they didn't want to then turn the job down after these kids just fought for him. Because then the parents and kids would be like, Coach, we just did this for you. So he got them on a Zoom call and said, hey, here's the deal. I got the job offer back, but here's what they want me to say. And all the parents were like, no, that's not going to fly, Coach. You can't do that. Because everyone knows Kalen, the Hall name's our family name's number one.
Yep.
Aside from his worship of the Lord, Kalen always bring the Savior into everything. That's number one, worshiping the Lord. Second is the Hall name, and being his authentic self for his community. And so if he were to make that statement live for the school just to have that job, he wouldn't be teaching those kids any lesson. He'd be teaching them to fold to people of power just because you want to get a job or just because you want to do something. So he wanted to teach them something better than that. So he writes back to the school and says, I'm not giving the statement. You take this statement out and just let me coach. We're good. And they wouldn't do it. Just weirdos, dude. Just weirdos. And this is probably the first time I ever publicly expressed that about another individual. Yeah. But this AD I was a TA for him at one point. He was a cool dude in high school. I saw him 4 or 5 weeks before. Jada did a cheer camp there, and I was talking to him. And then just to see this, just turn around and just the backstabbing. And what gets me is these kids are developing as football players.
Right.
A lot of these kids are going to play college. They could go play in the NFL. They could set their lives up forever. That is a huge deal, man. And my dad, it's not him, it's all the coaches, right? It's the environment they built, the hard, the expectations from the kids, which a lot of high school coaches don't have. Taught them to sacrifice and to work hard for something they want. And he also expressed the off the field stuff, being good kids, very BYU-ish, staying out of trouble, doing the right things. So he was just building an amazing football program that does things the right way on the field, from his hard-nosed way as a coach to off the field. So then to see an AD throw that away over his selfish pride and his issues with my dad personally, you're not looking out for those kids.
No.
The coach there now is awesome. He was coaching under my dad. He was helping him, and we love him. He's awesome. But they had 12 kids, transfer away. No one wants to be there anymore because of the environment that my dad and his coaching staff built, how good they were at football, the coaching their kids. These kids want to play professional sports. They want to play in college. They want their life to be around this. They love it. And so for them to say, we're doing this for the kids, that was the other thing they wrote. This is the best thing for our student athletes. Are you kidding me? And they just stood on it but that's the issue with these school districts. That's the one thing that's good out of this. I think people realized how
lopsided
the NEBO, not NEBO, but NEBO included in all of them, all school districts. It's just, it was sad, dude. It made us really sad because my dad loved it. We loved watching our high school we went to start to come up in the rise in football. It was fun. The grandkids loved going to his practices, riding on the golf cart, watching him yell at everybody. They loved it, dude. And now it's just done because one guy, and maybe it's not just him, but other people were just selfish and you let their own pride get in the way. And, so that's based on the facts that I remember. And again, someone clarify if I'm wrong, but that's the long story of what I remember. And yeah, it's tough. It sucked, but.
No, and the thing for me that stuck out the most was the Hall family, right? Very mild-mannered, people who have a good grip on reality, right? No delusion coming from the Hall family.
I'm from Kalen, from us maybe from the boys. It's our generation though, man. But no delusional.
Well, because I'm sitting here hey, I know Jaren, and I know if Jaren's gonna tweet something, if KJ is gonna come out with a statement.
Oh, KJ especially, bro. KJ is going to chill. He's the oldest dude, just grounded, grinder. When KJ called me pissed, I was like, oh, okay, it's go time, baby. It's ooh.
That's for me, that was the red flag. I was okay, no,
KJ comes out. Yeah.
This is real, bro. Yeah. This is something that needs to be
We're sad,
discussed.
man. We were pissed, and then we were sad, and it was – I never thought high school sports could make you so emotional. Now it's like, as I'm remembering the feelings, it's been a couple months. It's like, man, that was a rough week.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's fine, obviously. It doesn't affect their life. Luckily, his livelihood's not attached to it, right? He's not getting paid, for his living on that, or else that'd be even worse. So that's like the one silver lining that came out of it, but yeah.
And as far as I know, like Maple Mountain won more games than they had won in past few years, right?
Yeah, I mean, they had seasons like, in the last, 15 years of school has been open, 20 years. They've had like gone to the playoffs, but it's like you go 6-7 years this way, 1 year like this, but now they were just climbing. Now they have 9 kids with offers, and they're just going like this. They're probably going to win the state championship. And then that happens out of nowhere. Just, yeah. Yeah, I can go on and on about it. That was a very long-winded. Sorry for anybody who actually stayed to listen to that. Fast forward.
Let me ask you, because there was a decision to be made. It was either to let it happen or fight, and you guys chose the fight.
Yeah.
What is that advice you would give to someone else caught in the same position to fight?
If it's something you love, if you are in the right, if you're not guilty of what someone's trying to do in that situation, which Kalen wasn't, that's why we did it. Absolutely. You do it as long as your integrity can be intact, as long as you can remain humane, right? That's the other thing is I'm glad it didn't get uglier than that, because it just wouldn't have been who we were. So I think we let it get to the point of where, it's about my dad, it's not about us. He got to the point where he could still be himself as a man. And then once he thought he'd have to go beyond that or become something less than what he was, shut down. And that was it. So the lesson from that is to anybody is something you love, you go to the end of the earth to do it until you no longer can be yourself, or, just it changes you. So
that's a clip right there, baby. I'm clipping that up right there. Honestly, bro, I think that's good advice, especially I don't want to paint Utah in a bad light, but unfortunately, I feel like there have been. Because I'm a Cali boy, you know what I mean?
You are a Cali boy, so watch what you say.
I'm a Cali boy,
I got a couple for you
I want to be
here.
respectful because Utah's been really good to me so far. But it seems to me that we find more and more of these cases where unjustified action is being taken against an individual for malicious reasons. You know what I mean? For me personally, I've been surprised at how many people have said to stay quiet.
Interesting.
Personally, I've been surprised with those things. It's the same thing when like you have like something in the church happen with a church leader. People say hush hush. Hey,
hush.
That's Bishop.
Don't shed the light on it.
Exactly. What would be? Because you seem like someone who wants to stand up for what's right. Stand in holy places, stand up for your integrity, the family name, all those things.
Yeah.
How do you operate in Utah when it comes to those things?
I don't keep hush hush. Just keep it real. Again, I have a horrible memory. I'm trying to think of like a firsthand, experience of something like that happened with somebody made a mistake. And I think, unfortunately with the social media age, you got your TMZ thought process. Let's expose everything in a way to make money, right? Yeah. Let me get popularity off it. To me, it's the intent of it. Why am I doing something? If you're talking church stuff, like I've been listening to a lot of Casey Griffiths. He's a church historian who works at BYU. Awesome.
Yep.
My in-laws went on the church history tour, and since they went, my father-in-law sent me a lot of his podcasts and stuff because he was doing the tour with them and just very knowledgeable. And I've come across his stuff before and seen him around. But I started really getting into some of his, deep into his podcasts, the priesthood and temple bans, polygamy. Just started to listen to a lot of his stuff because that's what he does for a living, and I love his stuff. And one of the things him and his partner talk about, is in their intros on one of these church history things is there's a lot of like you call it illness or sickness in the history of the church, right? Yep. Just like any history. But he said, and I loved it, was the best antidote or the best healer for sickness is to put some light on it, or the sun, right? The sun heals things. And I love that. It's like, we're going to put the light on this. We're not going to hide it. And they get into a lot of stuff, dude. I mean, stuff I'd never seen before, read before. And so I think if it comes from the right place, put light on it. Like, I think the adversary in a gospel sense wants us to hide from mistakes, hide from things because it's easier to just sweep it under the rug. Yeah. Now, personal life, some things you're going to keep quiet. It's between you and a spouse, you and your parents, you and a church, bishop, whatever it is, you and the Lord. But then there's other stuff that's, more public, or somebody makes a horrible mistake or is a bad person. in the workplace. You want to vet them and know what their history is. So in terms of just, keeping stuff hush-hush, if it comes from a good place and there's a good reason for it, well, I mean, I don't even know if that's the avenue you were trying to go down, but
no, that
kind of a general question.
You kind of segued exactly into the topic that we had talked about last episode, but we're kind of revisiting things from a different perspective now, right? So along that lines with maybe not being so shameful of the history, right? The messed up history that we have. What are some things that you've discovered that were like, okay, that wasn't exactly what I was told, and actually maybe even strengthened your testimony, strengthened your view on the way that the church operates?
Like, for instance, I've been doing the priest and temple ban for Black Americans, right? Black Africans at the time, and realizing that nothing that was put in as a policy was revelation driven. Mm-hmm. Nothing from Brigham Young suggests revelation from the Lord. Nothing. It's all just cultural. I love Bachelor's theory he does on it. He's done a lot of it for the last couple of years. He's talked about it a lot, but just nothing in it is revelation. And you realize that unless you believe in infallibility, which we don't in our prophets, everyone can make mistakes. They're humans. They have since Adam to now. Jesus Christ is the only one that's been perfect. Unless you believe in infallibility, you'll have a lot of issues with learning about that stuff. And so for me, it was like, okay, there was no revelation given for this. I can be down with that. As egregious as that history is, hear about what Brigham Young said in his, I think it's his 1852 Utah legislation address, right? To not even in a church setting, it's at a legal setting, in the Utah legislation, about, what they're going to do with slavery and things. It's like just atrocious things said. Then you realize he's a man. The Lord's going to let him make his mistakes, and he's got to deal with that. Mm-hmm. But he was not speaking, as the Lord's mouthpiece at that time. He was not speaking through revelation given from the Lord. And the Lord just sits back and lets us lets the prophets figure out what they want to figure out, lets us, figure out what we believe. We're not supposed to do things blindly. We don't just follow them like the Savior, right? We still got to receive our own revelation for things if we have questions. And so just learning that one piece, in terms of, what's revelation, what's not, what was the question again?
No, so like
trying to tie this up.
When you're able to, so you're talking about like light revealing things.
Yeah.
And because truth stands, right? Truth stands when light is shown on it. So for you, what is something that was, and you kind of shared a little bit where the light was shown on a specific subject, and you're like,
that right
makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So I was just trying to tie it back to that. So that's how, for me, there was some light shown on that. As I peel back the layers a little bit, really dive into why things were said on the topic, why Brigham Young did this, why they did that. It wasn't revelation, right? So don't believe in perfect prophets, so I can accept that.
What do you have to say to people who, gosh, we're going to get into some, this is the last part, okay, this is the last part here. This is the last part here, but what would you have to say to some of the skeptics who say, well, you're just excusing things that people have said that would make the church look bad? I guess maybe we operate from a different
Yeah, I've read the Book of Mormon. I believe the Book of Mormon. That's the number one for me. So I'm able to now look at it from a lens of, I'm going to take all the information, good and bad, and then I'm going to apply it to, well, what does the Spirit tell me when I look at this? Am I looking at all the information? That's the other thing. The Spirit speaks to us in peace, and that's the feelings. But we forget that there's a lot of documents out there. We have every document of Joseph Smith on the subject, from Brigham Young. We're blessed to have all this stuff. And we have historians like Casey Griffiths who can go through this and break it down for us. And there's archives and there's, internet pages where you can go look at it. You can pour through it and see, the years that Brigham Young started talking about it. 1847, he's talking about Q.L. Walker as a wonderful holder of the priesthood, who's a person of color. Great. And then 5 years later, in 1852, all of a sudden the switch up. It's like, hey, what happened in these 5 years? Well, we can dive into that. We don't know for sure, but I don't know their names, but someone, there was interracial marriage in the church, and that was culturally, that was a huge no-no at the time, right? That's where the word mulatto comes from, right? It's the mule. It's someone who they thought people who were married between black and white could no longer have kids. That was a scientific thing. That they believed at the time, which obviously now is false. It's garbage, right? So there was a case of someone in the church got married and had an interracial marriage, and were going to have children. So we know that happened in those 5 years. There was also a brother in the church who was black who who started in polygamy. He started marrying a bunch of white women, started saying that he was like Adam in spirit. I don't remember his name. Just going off all this crazy stuff. He got excommunicated from the church and pushed away. And so that happened in those 5 years. And remember, Brigham Young and these guys were just like any other white person at the time. They're racist background, so they're looking for reasons for it. So that could have been a reason why he switched up. This guy took all these white women in polygamy. And interracial marriage was a huge no-no.
And he said, leave some for us. No, I feel that, but yeah, for sure.
So that was the other issue. So in those 5 years, there were a couple things that happened in the records we have, but we don't know for sure, right? So to me, it's like we have all this information. So when I hear these critics say this and that, you're just setting it aside, it's like, no. You'll never accept that I feel some way about it, or the Spirit reveals things to me, or I've read the Book of Mormon and I feel great about it. But you also can't deny the facts that there's all these records out there. And we can make our own inferences from it, obviously. They're always going to find a way to say, well, what about this and what about this? I think we have answers for more stuff than we don't.
Yep.
So that's how I see that. So if a critic says I'm just pushing it aside, I've had spiritual revelations and feelings of peace, and then I've also poured into the information that we have to read from. They also have to read from. It's no different. Right. I can read everything else that they can, and we just draw different inferences.
Honestly, you shared a few things in there that I didn't even know.
It's crazy, dude.
I like to think of myself as an intellectual, but
But there's so much stuff we can all study. I'm sure there's stuff that you've gone through I have no idea about on the same topic. There's so much stuff. So
that's amazing. Well, this is the last part of the segment here. Really quick, I just wanted to ask you, you've already shared some really good information. I feel like the youth need to absorb, adopt, apply. What would be your last piece of advice to someone, one of our youth, just looking to navigate this world, mixed race, white, black, whatever it is, last word of advice you'd give to them?
Yeah. Find confidence in who you are as a person, whether that comes from your spiritual identity as a son or daughter of God, or if it comes from what you do in the community, in sports, in your music, in your schooling and academics, whatever it is, find confidence in who you are first, and never lose sight of that. There's always going to be people that like you. There's going to be people that don't like you. And for some reason, the negative impacts us more than anything. And so hold on to all the positive stuff. Let that continue to go through your mind. Like the negative stuff, for whatever reason, tends to kind of cloud our vision, cut off our emotions, our good emotions, and it gets really hard to get over. So trying to remember those positive things you've experienced, or staying around positive people, friends and family, I think is super helpful. But just remembering that you have so much potential, and to not get caught up in all the, like you said, in this day and age they're raised in, it's the social justice, it's the the religion versus not religion. It's the, the wealthy and the poor. Like there's so many things these kids navigate, and they have to see it on social media every day.
Yep.
Because all their friends are on social media. They're all going to be on it. It is what it is. We're on social media. So never forgetting who you are, what your potential is, and that sometimes the stuff you see on social media is it's not real. More often than not, it's not real. It's a small depiction of It's sensationalized, as they say. It's more than it is, or it's less than it is. Just stay true to who you are. Stay around the people that bring positivity into your life. And just know when bad things happen, or when people say mean things to you as you're growing up, or people don't like you, just continue to do your thing. You just can't get caught up in all that. And a lot of people probably say the same thing, but I just think that's the key to growing up in this world now. It's crazy. Kids younger than you and me, like all you young kids watching this now, you got a lot more to go through than we ever did, and we're only in our mid to late 20s.
Late 20s, gosh.
Crazy, bro. It's just hard, man. The world is a crazy place, but there's a lot of good out there, and just strive to be what's good about this world.
I want to testify that what Elder Hall shared with us tonight is true, guys. Guys, this has been Jaren Hall, former BYU QB, current free agent in the NFL. The Unfiltered Talk podcast for the people, by the people, and without a filter. We appreciate y'all. We'll catch y'all later.